that discipline matters, order matters, chain of command matters. Because without those things, people die. But military service also teaches something very uncomfortable. Legality and morality are not always the same thing. Soldiers are expected to follow lawful orders, but we're also taught there are unlawful orders. And just following orders is not considered a complete moral defense. And history is full of people that were once viewed as criminals, agitators, or threats to public order, who are now remembered as heroes. Rosa Parks broke the law. Harriet Tubman broke the law. Vietnam draft resistors broke federal law. And at the time, many Americans hated them for it. So tonight we're asking, when is breaking the law justified? And how should veterans think about civil disobedience, dissent, and moral responsibility in a democracy built on laws and institutions? And so tonight I'm going to welcome our veterans to talk about this and our family members. First up, we have Rory.
What's up, y'all? Rory, 5051 Vets Comms Director, Army vet, uh, Fayetteville, North Carolina area. Um, yeah, happy to be here.
You look enthused.
Tired.
Next, next up, I'm going to welcome Tom. He's from one of our partner organizations, and I'm going to let him explain that. Tom.
What's up, everybody? Tom, co-founder of Fight Against Fascism organization. Also, you all know that I work with about face. Also, 5051 Vets. We have our own coalition also for March for Democracy. Come from Jersey, and I am a United States Army combat veteran, Iraq 2009.
Thanks, Tom, for being here. We have a civilian on our board because we understand the value of military families and how they are caretakers and their voices matter just as much as ours. So, Hannah, welcome.
Hey y'all, Hannah with 5051 Vets and Common Defense here in North Carolina. I'm really excited to get into the history of civil disobedience with y'all.
Thanks, Hannah. And next up, we have Brian, who is with Mass 5051.
Hey everybody, my name is Brian. I'm with Mass 5051. I'm not coming through anyway.
You are.
Oh, okay,
Continue.
fair enough. Yeah, it wasn't lighting up, a little weird. So I'm with Mass 5051. My main claim to fame is I'm an organizer, speechifier. I also do some writing. I now am one of the main writers on the Mass 5051 Substack.
Thanks, Brian. We're always welcome to have you. And next up, we have Steph, who's all around badass.
Okay, well, hi, thank you. So yes, I am excited to be here. I am a retired reservist and wanted to add, once I got high enough in rank, I tried to fight back as much as possible for all those poor guys that were much lower in rank. So civil disobedience, I'm excited to talk about. You got to be high enough in rank so you could try to talk back to them and try to get some shit straightened out. So.
Yeah, I feel it. It's always good leaders that fight back, right? And last up tonight is Carl. He is not only a member of us, he runs his own shit. He's one of our partner orgs. Carl, welcome and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I am Carl, founder and CEO of Cranbox Politics. Um, my experience with civil disobedience, I would agree with Steph. Like as soon as I got high enough in rank, and then especially once I decided to retire and decided I wasn't pursuing any more rank, is when I really got into being the voice for the junior Marines. But outside of that, my experience in civil disobedience is limited to Washington, D.C., the movement that we just had. So I'm excited for this show because I'm excited to bring my personal experience and what I viewed of it beforehand and then talk about it as we understand it now. So
That's why I think it's such a important and unique discussion within veterans about civil disobedience, right? And so I want to start off on some foundational figures. One of the foundational figures is Henry David Thoreau, who refused to pay taxes because he opposed slavery and the Mexican American War. His argument was basically you don't get to separate yourself morally from what the system does if you continue to participate in it quietly. What makes that uncomfortable is that it shifts responsibility downward onto ordinary citizens. And so, what do you think about that? Like, we cannot continue to participate in things, outwardly if we actually morally oppose to it.
Guess I'll kick us off, get it started. So I like Thoreau because what he's talking about is, he's very much in the Protestant tradition of keeping to your own ethics and keeping your own counsel, and he practiced that with his actions. And a lot of that informed a book that he wrote on civil disobedience that was read by Gandhi and was read by King. And so, like, he's actually kind of one of the founding fathers of even the concept of civil disobedience. Comes out of Thoreau's work. So.
And that's a good point, right, Brian, is that he actually went to jail for his actions, and then he did write a book, an entire book on civil disobedience and things like that. And so, I mean, I am of the theory, and me and Carl had talked about this offline, is I believe if a law is unjust, it deserves to be broken. And, Thoreau tied into that, right? Is like we cannot continue to pay taxes if it's going to slavery and things of a moral objectivity. And so, at what point does obedience become complicity? Is a bigger question.
I mean, we have a Jan Sexter, running the Oval Office right now. I mean, in my opinion, I think he needs to go now.
I mean, he was civilly disobedient.
I mean, I think that when you think about like military ethics, right, and it was wrestled with after World War II, right? Like Nuremberg established that just following orders is not enough by itself. That individuals still retain moral responsibility. And I think that that's what Henry David Thoreau was getting at, is that you have an individual responsibility to your own morality. And, then we saw it play out in World War II in the Nuremberg trials of like just saying, hey, like I was following orders. You do have a moral and an ethical responsibility, even as military, to refuse unlawful orders.
Yeah, so there's a question in my mind then, maybe just to kind of throw it out there so we got something to chew on. Because it's easy to say that you should disobey like illegal orders or you should disobey civilly. But even for people who are willing to disobey civilly, and I've been in some of those conversations where we talk about potentially what could be done, in that tradition, like what, where do you kind of draw the line of scrimmage on like cost, right? Because if you disobey a particular type of law, I mean, you're going to get arrested, like all kinds of things that happens, like what's the kind of cost balance and the risk kind of profile, right, for doing a particular type of action, and now I'm new to this activism thing, as I mentioned before, so like I kind of don't know where that line is, and I haven't done any civil disobedience yet, right? That might change in the future. We don't know what the future is going to bring, and so what's the trigger? Like when do you go out there and do the thing?
I think if you look at history, right, like, it's a personal choice, but like movement theory, like if we're going to talk about movement theory and like civil disobedience and where does that exactly fit in, right, is you do civil disobedience as an outward like action, right, against an unjust law. And what I mean by that is like the civil rights era when they were doing sit-ins at whites only cafes, or during Vietnam, the people that did not register for the draft and then automatically were facing prison time, right? Is how do we get there? Right. And right now, we are seeing an uprising of civil disobedience across the country, not only by veterans, right? We're also seeing it by civilians. We saw it on May Day by the Sunrise Movement out in California. And so you do see a shift right now from just everyday protesting to more civil disobedient type actions. And I think that that is because our legislators are not listening, right, endemically. Like we are showing up to town halls, we are showing up to Capitol buildings, and people are letting their voices be heard, and nothing is changing. And so therefore the shift is now like now we have to break laws, right? Is my opinion on it.
Yeah, so I
If
would
that
I would piggyback off
makes
of that,
sense.
right? It's not just that they're not listening to us because we're going to the town halls. They are actively engaged in efforts to remove us from the town halls when we do go to speak our minds. They're actively trying to limit our ability to communicate with them. So at that point, you have to say, okay, so what is the next best option? How do I get my voice heard by these people if they're going to use force to remove me from the legal ways in which I can use my voice? And that answer is, well, you're just going to have to arrest me. And you're going to have to keep arresting me until you hear what I have to say. And oh, by the way, you can't arrest all of us because at some point you're going to run into a maximum amount of people that you can hold in your jail cells. And you can try all you want. But if the population says, fuck no, guess what? It's over and you've got to listen. Wow,
I think
you've radicalized me, Katie. Like that's.
I know. Yes, I know.
I was
So
just
I
saying
like.
it in chat.
So have you guys seen this happened last year, February last year? I had to look up the video. I wanted to get the exact date. But do you guys remember the former NFL punter Chris Cluey when he did the town hall? And so this was oriented around essentially they wanted to put some MAGA crap into like the town charter, and I don't even know the details of it. And he gave this long speech, and he was talking about the great American tradition of civil disobedience, and then he got up and he laid in like his entire body in the middle of like the town hall, and then they couldn't proceed because he was there, and the police had to escort him. And then of course he just goes limp, right? And it was extra annoying because they have to put all this extra effort into it. And of course that video went viral because you have this famous football player who's probably worth millions, like picking a fight in a town hall over what is actually absolute bullshit that they shouldn't be doing, right? And it was pretty powerful and effective. I actually didn't follow up, so I have no idea if they actually changed anything. But it just the demonstration is important because it encourages other people to also do it. Like each act of courage begets another act, begets another act. Like valor is multiplied through exercise; it is not depleted.
I think that it's a much more like powerful act, right, Brian? Is like that just the defining act of civil disobedience, in and of itself says something. Is you're going to get arrested, you're going in with that intention, and that it's an act of defiance. Right, whether it's one person, a group of people, but it's an escalation because of the lack of change, right? Is we're doing all of these things, we're following the Constitution, we're following the law. And I think for veterans, like, we understand that tension more than most people because service teaches both obedience and accountability, right? Like that is beat into us, obedience and accountability, especially to like policy and law. And then when nothing is being followed, it's like, hey, now y'all aren't following the law. I guess we can lay down in traffic and we can block roads. And, it's a great tactic to use, and it's been used throughout history, right? We were talking, Brian, before this started about the Boston Tea Party, right? act of civil disobedience, throwing Boston tea into the harbor. You have a myriad of different types of civil disobedience that people need to be aware of too, right? Is it's not just the oil people blocking traffic. It's not just JCC blocking Trump Tower. It's, there's a myriad of different types of civil disobedience.
We a Guido, like a good one civil disobedience that just happened that I'd like to just highlight is I don't know how to say his name, but Guido Reichstader. I probably butchered that like a motherfucker. He's a Marine, but he was a Marine or is a Marine and climbed the McDouglas whatchamajit McDouglas Bridge in DC Friday
Wow, I didn't know he was a
and
Marine. Holy crap!
ran out of water Sunday and came down some point today. Like fire truck brought him down. And he did that for protesting the war in Iran and AI affiliation.
And that's my point, is that there's like a myriad of different ways to be civil disobedient, right? And that historically speaking on civil disobedience, all of the people that we know as actors of civil disobedience were not heroes at the time. They were not well liked, right? Like it was later in our history that they became heroes of civil disobedience. And I think that that is something that we all need to internalize.
I was going to say, just this past weekend, we went to a day-long conference locally here and learned more about the unionization and like the change of the tobacco workers and how Mount Olive Pickles are so heavily involved in like the like non-violent actions.
I mean, I think that non-direct, direct actions, like non-violent direct actions, do catch people's like attention, right? Is that we did one here in Jacksonville where they were like honking their horns around the courthouse to disrupt the courthouse proceedings. And like that's civil disobedience in and of itself, right? Like nobody got arrested, but it is disruptive. And that's what civil disobedience is, like on a baseline, is just disruptive action, right, to the status quo. And I think the bigger question is like, why do we as a society celebrate past dissent while condemning present dissent? Right? Is we have a history of that. Is like we celebrate the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, but then in today's society, when you see those people pop up, like we're like, oh, they're extremists. Or like the other side calls us domestic terrorists. Right?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
why is it always later?
that is really interesting. That's a thread worth pulling on, I think. I wish I had thought of that before because I would have had something smarter to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think hi everyone. B, I'm super happy to be here. Like, this is a topic I really dig, man, and it's something that I think it's really good to remind Americans of their heritage of, right? Because I think in the modern era, it still happens. People don't see it as frequently because the media doesn't necessarily want to show a bunch of people enacting CD, one. But two, it's not as prevalent as what it used to be, right? There's also two kind of dates that I want to call out that just happened, right? That are very pertinent to the topic. One, we just had May Day, right? And Hannah touched on this. When we talk about May Day and what it means to have the rights that we have gotten from the labor movement, we really need to understand what that cost, right? And what those rights are. The reason we have a weekend, the concept of an 8-hour workday, the reason we don't have children in mines, right? This is all due to our labor brothers and sisters that fought and died for this. And when we look at things like the Haymarket, prime example, we wouldn't have an 8-hour workday if it weren't for Haymarket, right? If we didn't see the Pinkertons come out en masse to slaughter our union brothers and sisters as a privatized police force for essentially the billionaire class, we wouldn't have what we have today, right? And we're regressing in society, and we must remember that these were hard won. Because they were hard won, we must remember that so we don't have to fight for those same rights again, right? The other date that I want to mention is May 5th, which also is the day that Bobby Sands died. Just for those that don't know, Bobby Sands, he was Irish Republican, not Republican as Americans think of it, but Irish Republican, believed in the union of the North and the South of Ireland and the end of British rule. He died on May 5th on a hunger strike in prison, right? And this is a man that did a lot for the cause, right? One of his kind of famous sayings was, everyone can play a role. Old, young, strong, the sick, employed, unemployed, everyone can play a role. Everyone can resist. Because what he understood, which was very ingrained within the, Irish Republican ethos, was that it took on a society wholesale, everyone, to rebel against an authoritative government, which that's what Britain was in the north of Ireland, to stop this oppression. That was the only way that was going to happen, right? We have to remember that here, because when we talk about Trump, yes, Trump sucks. He needs to go. I don't think anyone's going to argue on this call about that. I mean, I could be wrong. But I think most people are aligned on that, right? I think most people are also aligned with the fact that he's probably not long for this earth because he's old, right? Just the fact of the matter. So what does that mean? It means that we're going to have to fight the billionaire class, right? The oligarchs, also the people behind the throne, the Stephen Millers of the world, right? These are the people we're going to have to challenge. These are very powerful people. Right? The way that we do that is by engaging everyone within this fight of CD, and also making those people realize, like Katie said, and I'll shut up after this, like Katie said, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, go to the rotunda and get arrested, which is badass if you do, right? I always, my hat's off to you. But it can also look like we're just not shopping at XYZ locations. We're not patronizing this business. Right? We are, to somebody else mentioned it already, we're going to drive 20 miles an hour in a fleet of cars through the Boston, tunnel and over the bridge to make sure that no one's getting to work on a given day. These are the things that we do, right? These are things that can be done, that everyone can do. These are all acts of resistance. But yeah, thank you for having this topic. I'm super stoked. When you said it was CD today, it was over the fucking moon, bro.
So I'll add to not dates, but time periods. January 1917 is when the suffragette movement began picketing the White House. July 1917, some of those picketers got arrested for impeding traffic. Ironically, same charge that Katie, you got charged with when we were when we were doing our protests up in DC. So, but women's suffrage would not have happened had we not had women standing up for their rights and saying, listen, if you're not going to get our rights past the legal way, we're going to make it a nuisance for you until you start to listen. And then when you start to listen, we're going to get this done. And it worked. Unfortunately, in the UK, it had to go to militant means. But it worked in the United States, and that civil disobedience won through and got women the right to vote. And that's another one of those rights. Listen, folks, that's another one of those rights that's under attack today by members of the Trump circle. So yet again, it's important that those of us who have the wherewithal to say no more and enough is enough, it's important for us to do these things. It's important for us to violate the law in a peaceful manner in order to make the point heard and make our voices heard. Logan, I don't think, I'll be honest with you, I personally don't think that boycotting companies is going to be good enough. Just because there are people that are like, yeah, but what about the people that work there? And they make all kinds of excuses. Or you're in an area where, like, for us, Walmart is a major shopping region in this area. So
No, I absolutely agree with you, Carl, on that front. Yeah, look, when I think of boycotting, it's just one tool in the toolbox there, right? And to your point, when it comes to rural America, I know Walmart can be the only place sometimes to get food. Someone that comes from Oklahoma and it goes there once a year, I totally understand that. Yeah, I think we need multiple tactics, man. Diversity of tactics is what needs to be used. In my opinion, right? Make things very uncomfortable, make society unlivable, right? For those that are in power, make it to where it can't function, right? Whatever that looks like. And I'm not going to argue, like, this isn't something I'm going to do on this call per se. But there are when we talk about peaceful protest, we should be aware of what that means throughout periods of history. And we must challenge our own mindsets with what we've been acclimatized to when they say peaceful protest, right? Because we're very induated with a capitalist mindset consistently, to where we hold property sacrosanct, or at least the destruction of property is seen as something that's inherently violent, right? And not to say that there aren't in times where it can be, I'm sure, depending on what it is, like a hospital, right? That's fucking horrible. But I mean, yeah, I'm going to end it there. I don't want to get into too much, but when we're talking about private holdings, what have you, it's a little different in my fucking opinion.
Yeah, so I wanted to just kind of speak briefly about the efficacy of boycotts, and I'm going to approach it from somebody who was a skeptic and now who is no longer a skeptic. So what's really, really interesting about boycotts is you actually don't need everybody to not do the thing. Let's say you're boycotting, Walmart. Let's say you're boycotting Target. There's a Target boycott going on right now. The stock price tanked about 15%. Okay, they're now in the red on their profits, and the reason they're in the red on their profits is because their margins are so narrow. You actually take 15% of their customer base away, it destroys them. And right now, the activists, and they're in negotiation with activists right now over the DEI policy stuff, right? Like, the activists have them over a barrel because they can't be profitable until the activists get what they want. So I don't know what the state of those things are, but that's just one example of where, like, a boycott's really, really effective. It's almost like, because the capitalist system is so highly leveraged, you can actually unwind that leverage through a simple boycott. You bring their level down 10%, and that's enough to do serious damage to a lot of really wealthy people.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not why Elon Musk left the White House as well with Doge?
I think, who knows?
I mean, to me, undoubtedly, that was a contributing factor, right? Like, his corporate board at Tesla, I mean, you can read about it.
That's true. In
Business Insider, right? His board was hitting him up at Tesla saying, quit fucking playing games, bro. Get back to work. Yeah. Right? Look at our stock price. Right? So, I mean, it's something they understand. They understand money, right?
Yeah. There's another example I haven't heard anybody say. It's the Avelo flights. And so, I mean, I watched Rachel Maddow and the MS Now, and they've been following ever since Avelo started actually taking the flights for the ICE deportations. And so the locals found out, because Avelo is only in certain towns, and it's a fairly small airline. And so these small towns, the locals started protesting and then started going to town halls. And then the city council started pulling all the stuff related to Avelo because of the protests. And then Avelo finally stopped doing the ICE deportations for the government. That's actual peaceful protesting that actually made some change.
I mean, Iran with the Strait of Hormuz, I believe that's civil disobedience. I mean, they're just shutting down production and the shipment of goods, and you got Pete Hegseth begging for forgiveness over here, which is freaking hilarious.
I don't know if I'd say it's 100% peaceful CD, but it's not surprising. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, no shit, like it's one of those things. It's like you knew it was gonna happen. Everybody said it to you, bro. And so
I mean, it's
then you
not 100%
responded.
peaceful, but it's a good analogy. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, the economic pressure there is real. Like we're about to feel that, by the way.
Well,
But
it's like-
yeah, you know, I mean, look, I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, it's funny because our response is, you can't shut it down. We're shutting it down, right? And it's like, fucking idiots. But then the other thing is going to be interesting is I think the last shipment of oil to the U.S. happened like 4 days ago from the Middle East, something like that. We're about to see something significant. It's going to get interesting.
I told people, I've been telling people, like, yo, do you realize that we're gonna run out of oil? What are you gonna do?
Well, we're not going to run out because we actually make enough oil to do ourselves okay. But it's it is going to drive the price up because it's a globally traded commodity. Like we're not going to run out of oil. There won't be like a lack of gas. It's just going to cost more because foreign buyers are going to buy it up, and then we're going to have less here. You know.
Yeah, but we also use oil to create our roadways and to.
Yeah.
I'm sure we put petroleum in concrete. We put petroleum in, the color for our clothes. Like there's so much that plastic, we make plastic out of it. So, I mean, yeah, we might have some, means for fossil fuels, but it's going to be very minimal.
Yes. So what I'll say is that with that part, like one of the things that is not talked about enough is fertilizer, and fertilizer byproducts that come out of the oil production process, and that is centered in that same region. So we're going to see the price of food go up, which is going to really hurt Americans' pockets, but people around the world. But back to the topic, the entire LGBTQ movement has been nothing but civil disobedience. I mean, you could even call my time of service under Don't Ask, Don't Tell a form of civil disobedience, because I knew going in that I was gay, and I knew going in that it was not allowed to be, it was not out and open, and I chose to serve regardless of what the policy was. So you could even call that an act of civil disobedience. But if you look at the entire history of the LGBTQ movement, it is littered with acts of civil disobedience. The Stonewall riots, acts of civil disobedience. And I might say to all the naysayers out there that, hey, guess what? The transgender community led that effort. And so they deserve that recognition as well. But you watch American history, and if you watch the way that the social movements have moved through the process, civil disobedience is the key to making policy changes. To those of us, or those of the audience who are of the conservative nature, everyone remembers when Prohibition got put into effect. Well, the whiskey runners and I forgot the name, the bars that were hidden, I forgot the name of those, or what they were called. But those were forms of civil disobedience. Speakeasies. Those were forms of civil disobedience, right? It's in our history. It's our blood. It's the way that we work. It's one of the ways that we get our politicians to understand that they work for us. God damn it! They don't work for the major corporations. They don't work it for anyone else. They work for us. And if we have to break laws to get them to understand that, then that's the way that we do that. Holy shit, I'm radicalized.
Yeah, the speakeasies too are a particularly interesting example, because essentially what they were is they were underground nightclubs. This also dovetailed into the suffragette movement too, which is how history is strange. So you essentially had women who were pushing to get the right to vote. One of their top issues, actually, for a lot of them, because they were Christian women, was actually banning alcohol. And the reason they wanted to do that was because their husbands would go out and get like shit-faced drunk and then come home a lunatic, and they were like, we're done with this. And so they wanted to end it. So then the speakeasies happened, but what the speakeasy was actually was kind of like an early version of the nightclub, and the men would actually bring their wives. And so then all of a sudden there wasn't any interest in prohibition anymore, because you had everybody going to the speakeasy, and it's okay, why don't we just make this public? Why is this illegal in the first place, right? And so it's just history's strange like that, where you get these kind of contradictions that kind of add up until there's a resolution. But
You got interracial marriage is another form of civil disobedience. You have even existing as a person of color in this country with freedom. It's just very, civil disobedience. I don't know if
You're really choppy, Tom.
What about now? Can you hear me now? What did everything?
Yes.
All right, so yeah, I've been involved in civil disobedience, taking down Confederate flags and stuff like that. I'm not condoning doing anything violent or anything like that, but shit did happen in the process. But freedom, it's not free, and the only way freedom comes is through sacrifice. And whether it's us protecting our country from a domestic enemy, or standing up for yourself, for your rights, this is something, if you really want to be a patriot, you're here to stand up for everybody's rights. And I think that's something that's being lost in the sauce with the MAGA movement, and we need to re-educate people about patriotism and what the word patriot means.
Yeah, I do find it very interesting when, like, because we were talking about prohibition, and I saw Rory kind of want to step in there. But, you see this, like, weird shift of, like, the appellation, right? Like, the traditional, like, runners of liquor that have become, like, bootlickers. And it's like so strange of like these people whose like history is running illegal alcohol and making grain alcohol, who are now all about the federal government trampling all over their fucking rights. And it's like, what happened to y'all? Because like your history definitely shows you're not fans of the federal government. You are not fans of local government. You are not fans of government in general. And now you're shoving an entire boot in your mouth, while normal, everyday people who haven't ever fought the federal government, like Carl, who's been fucking radicalized by yours truly, is now fighting back against the federal government. And I think that history is lost, right? And so I know Rory wants to say something endemic to this. It's just very strange to me, that sudden shift of like
Sorry.
history.
No, something was literally in my throat. Sorry.
Go ahead, Rory.
Your great granddaddy was not a fucking bootlegger for you to be a fucking bootlicker. God damn it. So, quiz time. I got a quote. I pulled it up for my research tonight, and it came up, and I thought it was interesting. I'm going to surface it now. The government is best which governs least. Who said that? Thoreau. Right. And so you see that tradition, like the conservative tradition, actually in some ways spawned this idea of civil disobedience, fighting for your rights and for your liberty. It's that instinct of like, don't trust the man, right? That has been just warped by like the strangeness of history, right?
Yeah, but explain that, right? Like the conservative effort is to limit the size of government. And yet we have all these pretend conservatives who are running around wanting the government to control every aspect of our fucking life. Who we believe in, whether or not women can get abortions, whether or not women should be able to have access to prenatal care, whether or not women should have the ability to vote. Like the government, they're pro-government as long as the government is telling everyone how to live, and as long as that way to live is in line with what they believe and think that it should be. Like the conservative movement that thinks that they're conservatives under Trump, that's not fucking conservative. Like that is theocratic, if not full on authoritarian. Like it's complete bullshit, and they don't fucking see it. They don't understand that when they say that they're for small government and then turn around and support individuals who want to use government to inflict their own opinions on everyone else, what kind of horse manure is that?
No, I mean, Sam brought this up the last time, right? Moral decay, right? Like they don't believe in anything really. It's more about, well, you make the people that I hate angry, and so good, fuck you. Like that's really the energy there, and like I still think a lot of folk, even in the movement, are not really wrapping their heads around like how much this entire thing is not driven by a philosophy and it's being driven by hatred. And all the people who were driven by philosophy, like myself, I do happen to believe in small limited government, right? Because then it's less likely you vote for a tyrant who's going to destroy your life, right? Or if you do vote for a tyrant, he's contained because there's constitutional boundaries. And all that's eroded, and now we're looking at a tyrant. Like this is literally, in my view, a philosophical conservative's worst fear, the government we currently have.
Well,
I agree.
What it's supposed to mean, right? Like theoretically, like around the world, what conservatism means, but then you got the American conservatism, which their mindset of conservatism is conserving white supremacy.
Yeah. It's like, what are you conserving? What are you protecting? Right. That's the question we're answering now.
Whiteness, from and their Christian nationalist ideology, from their children seeing people from the LGBTQ community having normalcy in their lives, because their quote normalcy can't be somebody else's normalcy. Seeing Black people having joy in their fucking life, to them is an attack on their whiteness. So they're trying to conserve the only joy that they feel that people can have is their own. And when marginalized communities are thriving and they're happy and they're living their lives to their fullest, that means there is no white supremacy. They're not superior, so they have to punch down on those communities to have that white supremacy feeling, and that's what they're trying to conserve.
You muted Steph. Steph.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. So I don't know how many of you guys may know, but it's the Women's Day Off, Women's Day Off in Iceland. Not sure if any of you have heard of it. It happened October 24th, 1975. And what the purpose was is that women were protesting because they were earning 40% less than men on average, and a general devaluation of the work. And so there was a mass exodus of women that just walked out. And it was majority of the country. It was very widespread. And they were able to actually settle everything within some time. And right now, Iceland is the most gender equal country in the world because of that civil disobedience of that day. So it's, to me, that one is the highest thing that people try to strive for in this modern times for civil disobedience, is that level. And when we were watching what was going on in Minnesota for when everybody walked out and did that whole day off and walking through Minneapolis, that's what I was thinking of, was that they were following those women that was doing that.
And I mean, to tie it all together, like, because we're talking about boycotts and white supremacy and everything, and to tie it together, right? Like, look at the bus boycotts, right? Like, active like civil disobedience led by people of color that lasted. People, I don't think people like really realize how long the boycott lasted to get policy shifted. It was not like a very short period of time. These people like did this for 18 months before policy shifted. And when you think of the civil rights era, because Tom's point to white supremacy matters, right? And that the BIPOC led organizations of the time were like leading the civil disobedience of sit ins, of, you know, like I live in Jacksonville. And I was talking to everybody here, for everybody watching, we talk about these before we do them. It's not just a shit show. And I was trying to get a local legend on here, and Rodney Hurst, right? Like he his Axe Handle Saturday here in Jacksonville. It was like a very big deal because, you know, there is a lot of civil disobedience that has to happen throughout history for what we want today, right? Like it's not just protesting, it's not just, you know, following the law, it's not just being obedient to the culture. Like for cultures to shift, we have to do like break laws and block roads. And we were talking about oil earlier. Like they've done a great job of civil disobedience. Like I know the European Autobahn people hate the oil industry folks that do all the civil disobedient actions because they'll like block the Autobahn for like hours and people want to run them over. But like it gets the visibility, and that is what is needed, right? Is the visibility, and civil disobedience is what gets there. And I'm super proud of my radicalization of Carl, right? Like I sent him a meme yesterday as a joke about gay people, right? About gay people advertising that's sent to gay people, and it's like gay people and rainbows. And then the other picture I sent was like gay people I know, and it was people with Molotovs in their hands, right? And it's just like there's a definitive difference of like how people think and what reality is. And the reality is within our community, right? The veteran community endemically is all about civil disobedience, right? We always have been. Like veterans always have been, especially when you look back after World War One, World War Two, and like especially those two wars, when we had black veterans come back and get fucking lynched. Right? And we don't talk about that enough as military members. Like, we don't talk about like our brothers and sisters getting lynched after they came home, and then military members speaking out against that practice. And in Vietnam, how there was a practice to send black soldiers to the front line first, and there was a fucking Supreme Court case that had to happen for that practice to stop. And it took black soldiers and white soldiers to stop the practice through civil disobedience and not following lawful orders. When they were sending black people to the front lines of Vietnam to be fucking slaughtered, there was plenty of white officers that refused the order and got fucking court-martialed. And then it ended up in the Supreme Court. And so you have to think about like the culture at the time. And I love that we're talking about this, and I'm gonna shut up and let Brian talk, because there is a like a need for it, and veterans are good at it, right? Like DC was fun, right? Like, but like it was planned. Civil disobedience is planned endemically, very specifically, like Rosa Parks, handpicked for that, and people don't talk about that. She was handpicked for that role. And so, you know, go ahead, Brian. I'll shut the fuck up.
No, all that's really helpful. So I had the opportunity to get trained by someone who was involved in the LGBTQ movement. But one of her, I won't say her name, but one of her most recent claims to fame was that she was also involved in the Standing Rock protests. And what she does is she does nonviolent civil disobedience training for people in the area. So she brings in like 5051 and Indivisibles and all these different groups. A lot of us who are brand new to this thing who don't understand how all this works and kind of explaining the tactics, the strategy, and all that. So that was just worth raising. But one thing too to keep in mind, like with the Rosa Parks example, because everybody talks about the Rosa Parks, what people don't appreciate is there was something like a 3-year period of training and a planning and sequencing of a very, very specific and detailed campaign. The Birmingham bus boycotts, the reason they were effective is because they built a mutual aid network, and then they were able to kind of basically wrap their hands around the throat around the bus company and basically demand compliance, right? It's this idea of like using points of leverage to make demands. So it's not just like, blocking a road and being annoying for a day. Like when you're trying to do civil disobedience, it's part of a much larger campaign that has sort of onion layers around it. So you have a lobbying layer, you have a media layer, you have all these other components, which the movement is building out slowly but surely, which support that action. The civil disobedience is the tip of the spear. It makes the most noise and it draws the attention, but then you have an army of all these other people who fall in behind it to kind of make sure that it happens with boycotts, with lobbying actions, with lawyers going out and fighting it out in the courts, veterans standing in formation in sort of awkward places to make people really reflect on what's really going on. I think all of that is important. So.
Okay. Hey, Mike Sod. Yes. Okay. So wanted to point out for the Vietnam War one for everybody, one of the court cases and one of the officers that was actually telling African Americans, hey, you might not want to go to war. You could try to, you want to save your lives, don't go. Trying to disencourage. It was actually a Dr. Howard Levy, and he went all the way up to a Supreme Court case, Parker v. Levy, which unfortunately did actually limit freedom of speech for military members when it came to him actually doing that civil disobedience. Not many people may know about that Supreme Court case, but he was just out there trying to tell these guys, try to save your lives, refuse to serve in Vietnam because they were being discriminated against and denied their freedom in the United States. It's that one I do recommend a lot of people to read and try to figure out, try to understand more of what was happening in that time framing for that doctor.
I also want to kind of piggyback on something you said before about Iceland. So the United States is 14 on the Freedom Index. We are not the freest country in the world. As of right now, pull it back up. I still have it here. I think it was Greenland. I lost it. But yeah, we're number 14 on the Freedom Index. We're not the freest country in the world.
It's actually higher than I thought it would be, given the Trumpian slides.
It depends on where you look on the different things. So I had submitted this for an idea for future talk. So there's a few other studies and a few different organizations that's been doing it, and I believe one had us at 86 of 150, and that was on freedom of press.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on what you're measuring. Like Cato does one, but it's like they have other freedoms in there, but there's also like an economic bias, and so that can raise our score potentially. So it depends on how you cut the numbers, because this isn't an exact science.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting, though, like when you look at the Freedom Index and then you look at how they protest, and I think Logan was getting at this earlier about like other countries and how they practice civil disobedience, right? Like I always say that we have a lot of lessons to learn from the French, right? Like the French know how to party. Right? Like you piss the French off and they are like lighting their country on fire and
I know a
nobody is
thing or
going
two
to
about the
work.
French.
Right? And I think that we have this culture, and we were talking about it earlier, and I read the comment of like talking about property, right? Destruction of property. I read the comments, and I thought, like, yeah, it is a radical thought about like our laws around property, right? And Logan didn't want to go too far left, and I'm gonna like take it way far left for 2 seconds. Because when we think about what they do in France and in other countries. Like, I'm not even just talking about like the French. Like, look at the Bulgarians. Look at the the Slavic countries when they like party. They party, right? I mean, and it's not even them. Look at Nepal, right? There, the best thing about Nepal's government falling was the video I saw of a tour bus going through. They stopped burning down the government buildings, were waving at the tourists, and were saying, sorry, come back next time. And then the following day, everybody got out on the streets and swept up the building they just burnt to the ground. And we don't think that way, right? Is I know before I was like super radicalized, like I used to think like that of like, oh man, we probably shouldn't burn buildings to the ground. It's like really bad for capitalism. That's the problem. It's really bad for capitalism. And then I got like somewhat thinking of like, if we're going to do crazy shit, like let's burn down federal buildings. We all fucking pay for them. That's our tax money. Like, and like when you look at the French who do this type of stuff, or then Nepal, or people that do that type of like way far things outside of our purviews and thought processes, it works, right? Like we just have a weird view of property here. It's very strange.
Which, which country was it that spewed manure on the sides of the government buildings?
The French.
It was
Yes,
France.
that's why I'm like, okay, I was trying to
Crackers.
remember. I
Yeah,
thought
with
it was
the
France.
crackers. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll
Yeah.
give you that we got probably maybe a little bit of a slightly out of step culture there. But when I talk to the Europeans about what we're doing, and I got friends over there, and I've mentioned this before, but just for any other new viewers, like they're mighty impressed with just the size and scale of American resistance, like writ large. You know, because it took like in the Slavic countries, it took them like 8 years for the color revolution for them to build those things up and get to kind of like where we are now in terms of shape and scale and size. So like there's a real, so they were like, I think the backlash effect against Trump was just so massive to the point that we got grandmothers and software engineers out there in the streets. It's not like, it's not the radicals who are out there. It's like the middle class professionals and the lawyers and the grandmothers who are kind of doing the thing now. And that's good, right? It also means that we need some training because we're not as fighty as we could be, right? Because most of us have basically benefited from the society we're embedded in, you know?
I get that, but like, okay, I want everybody who's watching and sitting here. During BLM, all right, I was out in the streets. I'm sure a few of us on this panel were out in the streets getting our fucking asses handed to us by the police. There was one people that were doing it correctly in this country, and I love the video of it. The Puerto Ricans. The Puerto Ricans literally built a like 50-foot guillotine and carried it through their streets and erected it at their governor's mansion. And that human being fucking resigned. So when we talk about resistance in this country, it is doable. We just have to, like, I know Steph's like, holy shit, I thought it was great.
Just not
Ellie, I
like
was like,
that.
this,
It's
I was
doable,
like,
just
this is
not like that.
amazing.
No, I'm drawing comparisons to January 6th because of the lynching, station that was built.
Right, like, and there is that comparability, and it's weird. But
Yeah, I had
when
a
we
few
think
of them.
about like civil disobedient actions, we have to think of small scale, right? Of like, hey, getting arrested in rotundas. But like, there's also the large scale disobedience of like what Logan was talking about, of like, we are shutting down bridges by driving very slowly in unison, and we are like disrupting commerce because it is all of us versus billionaires. And how do we affect billionaires is in their pockets? How do we affect their pockets is through commerce, right? And when we're talking about the French, it's like, yeah, the farmers spewed manure all over the buildings, but they shut down commerce. When we're talking about shutting, like the oil human beings shutting down the Autobahn, they're shutting down commerce. Like, because that is the bottom line on civil disobedient actions, is that it should disrupt commerce and everyday activities. And even the Rotunda action we were a part of, it disrupted everyday activities. When you have veterans in there with a fucking bugle in unison, right? Like, it is disrupting everybody's day, and they're going to stop what they're doing, right? And there is a difference between peaceful civil disobedience and unpeaceful, right? So January 6th, it like fuck those guys, like outright, right? Like all of us are fuck those guys. A lot of those guys were veterans. We disavow them. They don't understand their oath to the Constitution, and fuck them. Like, we hope they all end up back in prison, and they're getting there fucking slowly by showing them their true selves. However, right, like, what we're talking about here on a civil disobedience scale is peaceful, right? We're not talking about like, let's like build guillotines and show up and kill people. Like, it's not that. That is not civil disobedience. It is peaceful. It is disruptive to commerce. It is well thought out. It is planned. Like, there is an end result, and there is a way to do it, right? There is a safe way to do it. And even during like civil rights, those like people knew they were going to get bit by dogs. They knew it, and they took it. That's part of it, is understanding your threshold of what you can take. Is like, if you are not that human that can take getting bit by dogs and beat by cops, because that's a potential, probably don't show up for civil disobedience actions. Like, if you like want to get ripped out of a meeting and you understand that that's probably what's going to happen, is go into it with that mindset, but please get trained. Like, please keep it peaceful. I mean, even the Marine that got his arm broken, I'm sure he didn't think going in there of disrupting that hearing that he was going to get drug out. He did know that. He didn't know that his arm was going to get caught in a door. A sitting U.S. fucking congressman was going to come down and then break his fucking arm. I don't think that that was in the plan, but that's what happened. And so you have to plan for things like that, right? And so, can you put that comment back up? Because I didn't want to lose my train of thought. Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, so
Piece of that.
that big expensive microphone is a piece of shit, because I can't hear you. I don't think any of us can hear you, Tom. Unplug that motherfucker and just use something normal.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, that I got a chance to talk to that Marine, and he is the most peacefulest, nicest person I've ever met in my life.
And that's the point, is like the J6ers that showed up to the Capitol, they are not fucking peaceful individuals. Like, they were there to overthrow the federal government, and like, that's not up for debate here. Is like, there are a lot of people that do civil disobedient actions, such as the flotillas, right? We didn't even get into like a myriad of different civil disobedient actions, including the flotillas that have continually went to Gaza to provide aid, and they're like getting bombed, beat, put in prison. All of that stuff is, it's just the threshold, right? And so I do think that we'll have another conversation on civil disobedience, because we do want to get into our second hour, which is our fun hour, where we have hate mail and shit like that. So the first thing that we do, it's called Fire for Effect, and Carl runs the segment. So I am going to turn it over to Carl.
Yeah, so I just realized that I failed to get the overlay done in time. So work on that and get it ready for for next the next show. But Katie, did you want to start with the question that we had from the audience, or did you want to roll into the hate mail first?
I guess you could do the question if you like. Yeah.
Okay. So this question came through the pipeline that we offered, and this is the question that came up, and it has really nothing to do with the topic of the show, but it deals with naturalization for non-citizen service members and their families, which falls under one of our pillars. Put it to the panel
Yes, it does.
to discuss.
So I do know from our standpoint at 5051 Vets, it is one of our pillars. It's under Pillar 3, which is our sixth demand. And so we have a partnership with Black Deported Veterans of America and a partnership with Repatriate Our Patriots. There's two very specific pieces of legislation that exist and have existed for a while now. I think we're on the third Congress of it being introduced, and what it is to do two things. The first thing it is going to do is help repatriate deported veterans and create a pipeline of how do we do that, and there's a legal process of how to get them back, because this is a topic that we don't speak of enough. Somebody I was talking to today about this subject did not realize that since Vietnam we have deported over 96,000 veterans in this country. There is a UC Berkeley law study done on it. You can Google it, deported veterans, first fucking thing that comes up. 96,000 of us, and that study is from 2 years ago. So it was in 2024. That doesn't include what has been happening with this administration specifically. So that is one piece of legislation. The other piece of legislation is to streamline the process to citizenship for active duty members. Everybody has this false belief system that it is like so fucking easy to get citizenship once you join. We have very predatory practices in immigrant communities that like promise citizenship if you serve this country, and then we fucking fail them because there is not a streamlined process. So what this piece of legislation is aiming to do is to streamline that process so that during your initial entry, you go through your interviews, all of the background checks, and take the test. So that at the end of your initial enlistment, if you are getting out, you get handed your DD-214 and your citizenship paperwork. And at your re-enlistment, if you're doing another enlistment, at your re-enlistment ceremony, you get your citizenship paperwork, so that that promise is actually fucking fulfilled by our federal government. So that is the answer to the question, is please look up those two very specific pieces of legislation. We are partnering to get those passed on a lobbying level, but the two organizations that are specifically working on this, please look them up, Google them. They are partners of ours. Repatriate Our Patriots, who is run by our friend Danzita Jones. Steph knows her. We've worked together for years with Dee on a myriad of issues. And then James, who runs Black Deported Veterans of America. He is out of California, and he is working on that issue from the angle of it is not only Hispanic individuals that are being deported in mass, it is actually Black individuals that are being deported in a larger number, and we're not talking about that. So that is the answer to that question. I hope it fulfills the question. Ta-da.
Sorry, I had myself muted and I couldn't get unmuted. So, hate mail. This particular piece of hate mail came off of YouTube, and it was made on the April 11th show, which I believe we were talking about the 25th Amendment. And the comment is, while you spoke so loud during the Biden puppet presidency that you were silent, is it only Republicans that you want out, or is it equally across the board? This is a crazy topic that you didn't seem necessary, but screamed during Trump's first and second term. No one listens when you scream it during Republican terms, but are silent during the obvious Biden Democrat term. Shaking hands with no one walking off into weird directions during his supposed speech. You have to be equal for anyone to listen.
Aw, little MAGA snowflake got his feelings hurt.
It's just funny to me because we've been screaming about Palestine while Biden was in office.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually was complaining about Biden. I was like, motherfucker, you're too old. Get out of the way. Right?
I mean, that's the thing when I see these. Like, it's so wild, man. It's like you act like we didn't criticize Biden, right? The fact, like, I mean, look, I'm not going to speak for anyone else. But look, at the end of the day, the guy sucked. He was too old, not mentally with it, right? Shouldn't have ran in the first place. The fact that you had Biden and Trump once again against each other showed where we're at. Like, that's a consequence of where we're at in this country. You know, but it's also the fact that, like, look, I mean, yeah, Biden sucked, you know, and he's definitely not mentally sound enough to be the president of the United States, in my opinion, right? But he wasn't actively trying to destroy the United States of America. Like, he wasn't like, I don't believe in Joe Biden or his staff's heart of hearts that they're trying to drive full bore to destroy America, right? I don't think that that was the case, right? And I think that's the
He did make a lot of money
difference
out of it too.
Yeah. Biden didn't have a fucking crypto grift, right? When like the Prince Sultan of Saudi Arabia can, give us $400 million. Like, come on, like.
I think we did speak out,
mob
though.
boss.
Right, is that I think everybody sitting here can admit that Biden was too old, clearly had some memory issues, but I hate to be like that person that's like, oh, it's the lesser of two evils, but that's what the fucking problem is with a two-party system, is it's like you have one party, person that is absolutely trying to destroy democracy in this country, and then you have another person that is too old and also should probably not run this country. And so it's like, who the fuck do we vote for? I remember during it, I was like, is this the best we have to offer as a country? Is like these two old guys that both suck? Like, god damn it. Right? And so like this type of stuff is, I've been speaking out loudly against both parties for 13 years of my life, right? Because bad policy is bad policy. It doesn't fucking matter who's in office. Bad policy exists on both sides of the aisle, right? And so like, as you're an advocate for like years and years, and I'm sure Steph would say this about Diana Danis, who was a mentor of like ours, like she'll talk shit about any fucking president when it comes to veteran policy because all of them suck on it, right? And so I have talked shit about every president because every fucking president in both parties love to use veterans as photo ops, right? But then fuck us when it comes to actually helping us. So yeah, I spoke out against Biden being too old too. So yeah.
So I gotta own this one because looking at the username, I have just realized that I know this commenter. I won't say who it is and how I know them, but let me be clear, right? One, there's a reason that Kamala Harris was the nominee for the Democratic Party in 2024. Now, should she have become the Democratic nominee in January? Probably, you bet your ass. Like, should there have been a primary? You fucking bet your ass, right? But there was no hubris within Biden to say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and step away from this. And we all talked about that. And there's a reason that he didn't make it into the general election because everyone knew he was too old to do the job. We all talked about it. It was very clear that that was what was going on. The problem right now is not, oh, Biden, Biden, Biden. I'm so tired of the other side going, oh, well, what about Biden? Listen, who's the president right now? Oh, wait, it's Donald J. Trump, right? Who is the oldest president currently? Oh, wait, it's Donald J. Trump. Who is a doddering fool? Oh, wait, it's Donald J. Trump. Who wears a diaper and a catheter bag so that he can walk around and pee himself and shit himself in front of other dignitaries around the world? Oh, wait, it's Donald J. Trump. So if we want to like have a serious conversation, you're right. We have to be equal for anyone to listen, and we are. But you refuse to hear what we say when we're talking about other people and only get offended when we talk about your savior, because all of a sudden your savior needs you to rise up and defend him. Guess what? 8647.
You see, I don't want
8647.
I don't want to have a serious conversation with these people. I want to mock them and humiliate them and just drive them into exile, like just socially, right? Just it's because it's just we don't have the time to be trying to explain to people and unfuck their brains from like 10 years of like just listening to Russian agitprop getting injected into their veins. Like fuck you. That is my answer to this. Like fuck you.
You know, the Democratic Party did not want to listen to a black woman. Let's just be real. They threw her under the bus at the last minute because let's just like they didn't want to listen to her. And if we would have primaried her in the beginning, she would have won hands down. I think what they did with Biden, people lost faith in the Democratic Party at that time and decided to vote the third party or didn't vote at all. And that's what did a lot of damage. And then also let's think about it. You know, Democrats and Republicans didn't push hard enough to put Donald Trump in prison. They were too afraid of the base going after them, and because they didn't take their oath seriously like we do, now we have to pick up the pieces for them.
Yeah.
And also I would love, you know, I'm gonna say this, you know, to be an accountable person, right? I voted for Trump in 2016, not knowing what I was voting for. I was being, you know, fed propaganda about Hillary Clinton and the emails and about what she did in Benghazi. So like people, you can hold yourself accountable and do better. Like you just have to sit down and get out of your algorithm, and you have to just take accountability. I mean, if you voted for him in this election, you really got some fucking work to do. But 2016, I can understand people if they're ignorant to the facts and stuff like that. Yeah, I was just completely ignorant. I didn't know what the fuck I was voting for. And once I started to really dig and see what the fuck was going on, I definitely regretted that vote for sure.
Yeah. I did not vote for Trump in 2016, but I actually super appreciate the honesty because if at least one person hears that and says, okay, like you're giving people permission to say, okay, maybe I can do this too. Goes to the top of the podcast, right? Like every act of courage begets another act of courage. And it's courageous just to say, oh yeah, I fucked up, sorry. Right. And that's easy to do, turns out. And it's actually just cleansing because now it's off your soul. You said the thing, right? And you're a better person. I mean, that's good. Right. We need more of that. And by the way, I think a lot of these MAGA morons, the ones who are less moronic at least, are starting to flake off and they're starting to have those same kind of feelings. And, you know, it's because we're right and they know we're right.
I had a guy at my work. He's a contractor, and we were talking about it, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I was a Trump supporter till, you know, I started doing what they were doing, and I can't stand them anymore. Like I can't believe, you know, I fell for the trap." But I was like, "Look, you know, at least you're taking accountability, and you got a lot of work to do. You know, it's very possible to, you know, get people out of this red pill." People with toxic masculinity and all this stuff is you gotta give them, you have to show them the way, but there has to be more male role models, you know, to push a lot of these MAGA men out of their comfort zone. And I try to do this every single day, you know, so.
Yeah. And so I know we've been on this one for a while, but a lot of good conversation came out of it. There's a comment that Vile shared that I would like to just highlight. I'm voting straight progressives this primary season. You can bet on that. Also, a lot of people here do think Biden sucks, but they think that Biden wasn't far enough to the left. And then there's a whole bunch of people who think Biden wasn't far enough to the right. And so that's why they think he sucks. They think it's like a policy difference is why he sucks. And okay, maybe he sucks, maybe he doesn't. For me, and I think everybody here agrees, I just kind of wanted to highlight, it's all about like Biden isn't a mob boss, right? Like he's sucky in the normal, like Hillary Clinton lies like a politician and Donald Trump lies like an alcoholic, right? Like there's different types of people, right? And Hillary Clinton is not a bad person. Biden wasn't a bad person. They have a philosophy that maybe you don't agree with, that maybe has passed its expiration date, right? But they're not bad human beings. Trump is a fundamentally bad human being, and that matters a lot when you're talking about leaders who are going to have to do with life and death decisions. Anytime something gets to the president's desk, it's a shitty decision. Someone's going to get hurt no matter what the president decides. And so you better make sure that person has some ethics so they can make a judgment call about what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, and to keep us on track and on time, I'm going to move on to the next one. But folks, for you listening, this time period is not just hate mail and comment or questions that we get pre-show. If you're able to log in and use the Riverside app from a desktop, you will have the ability to call in and talk to us live on the show during this period. So if you're interested, please do. We'll also entertain and talk about your comments as they come up and as they get surfaced. So Brian, thank you for bringing that up. Maybe. Oh, there we go. So this one right here, this is a comment that is recent, but came in on an older Smoke Pit episode that featured the candidate Mark Davis. And the comment is, I hope the Secret Service pays this psychotic clown a visit. Now, if I remember right, Mark Davis was very vocal about his views of the administration. Katie, do you want to talk about this one?
Okay. Brian is going to talk about Mark Davis from his purview because he loves his shock value, and I'm here for it, right? And he can speak about that. From a interview perspective, right, is I interviewed him as a candidate for Congress and a Floridian about policy and perspectives on how we should govern things of that nature. And so, yeah, I think that the comment is pretty funny given how the interview went. I like his shock value if that's his shtick. I'm a policy person, and so when I'm trying to interview somebody about policy and we're talking about his Nazi.us like thing, and yeah, I mean, I wish him luck. He's an independent. If you live in Tampa, he's running in Tampa. Yeah.
Oh, that's that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
He is blowing up. And by the way, you know what this is? This is the Vets 5051 bump, because he was on Vets 5051 and then like a week later he blew up. Like he's now got like 1 million subs. Like he's all over the place. And,
The Vermin Supreme looking dude. No,
no, I don't think it's Vermin Supreme looking. He kind of looks like, I don't know, he's like a big burly kind of blonde white guy.
Logan, you're thinking of Spaceman. Spaceman is no, different guy. Spaceman is the Republican candidate running for governor in Michigan.
Oh,
This guy's running in Tampa.
Which one was the guy that I made a meme out of?
That was Spaceman.
Oh my God,
Also,
bro.
I really have been fighting this urge, but my name's Jeff.
Bro.
Oh God! So I encourage anybody watching. That's like, what the fuck is going on right now with all of these people? We interview candidates from time to time, and every once in a while it goes completely awry. And if you have the time, watch the one on Spaceman. Because it's the only time I have been petty enough to cut clips and send it to their competitor, because I was so irritated. And Tom was on that call, and so was Rory. And it was so bizarre that this human being is running for governor of a state in this country.
I had to
was like,
bow
what
out of that
happened?
one.
I mean, there's like
Yeah, it
100
was.
people that run for president every year, and none of them ever make it anywhere because it's just like because it's easy to do. You just fill out a piece of paper that you're running for president, but you're not in the ballot anywhere because you don't have a party. And
Yeah, no, this guy actually like has footing in Michigan to
yeah,
run for governor as the Republican seat, and it's scary because on our live he said that women should expect to be raped in the military, like that's part of their job, and then it really just went, it spiraled, quite frankly, from that comment
should have
down to hell. It was
done
very interesting.
done some vetting, maybe.
That's when actually, so it's funny, and I know Carl's like watching time and losing his mind, but that's
We
when
did
we
try to
started.
warn you.
That is when we started vetting. We were doing no vetting. It was like if you were a veteran and you were running for office, we were willing to talk to you no matter party. And I was driving home from Tallahassee when I got a message from Hannah and Rory of, have you checked out this guy's website? And I said no. And so I pulled off I-10 and I went, well, this is going to get weird. And it inevitably got real fucking weird. And so therefore we put in, we should probably research people before we platform them. And we learned our lesson again here recently about doing even more research into human beings before we platform them. So yeah, it's been a wild ride on this veteran adventure together. But that's fun. That's funny.
Yeah.
I wish Mark Davis well. He is a member of our group. He's going through vetting. He I do wish him the best of luck in his race. His style of shock value is just not my thing. I don't want to know my politicians for being obnoxious. I want them to be known for being good policy writers and wanting to solve issues. And it's just your style of politician, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's my
Well,
style.
it's like it's more like, and you know, we talked about this a little bit last time. I've had some time to reflect, by the way. It's more like governing is prose and policy is not prose, right? And the shock value is there, but it's also clever. It's also witty. It's also kind of strategic. He's kind of taking the MAGA energy and reversing it back out of. This is also what Robbie Roadsteiner does, and all these other guys who've been out there, Destiny, and the other folk that I've been really kind of lionizing and you know elevating them because like, listen, we actually have the nucleus of kind of an influencer media wing that can actually fight back against the Fox News disinformation machine and is drawing blood. Right. And we need that because we have to push these people out of the space. And then, you know, once you got the space, well, then, I mean, are they good people? Yeah, they're good people. Like, they're going to get some policy nerds behind them. They're going to figure out the detail work. And that's where, like, the Vets 5051 can step in with its policy focus or different groups that have that focus. Like, you know, there's no right way to resist because we need everybody to kind of do everything. And we need to kind of be out there like the Zerg doing everything all the time, covering all the bases because like it's all territory and it's all terrain. We just need to take it all because the MAGA movement fundamentally needs to be defeated. It just can't be like they lose an election. Like they need to be crushed, right? To the point where it's not a party anymore. And that's going to take a lot of work and we're going to need a lot of fire to do that. So.
Yeah, I agree. I really hope that MAGA goes the way of the Nazi when it comes to remembering them in history. Last comment, and this comment comes from actually a React video that I did on the Patriotic Peach. If you remember that one that compared 1960s politics to today's politics and how she couldn't understand why we can't get along with people who voted for Trump. And this is by an individual who calls himself Han Solo 36. I doubt he made the Kessel Run. But he says, leftists talking about morals is always comedic, all caps, gold. This is one of those that so those shorts are like gifts that keep on giving, right? Like that short, one of Logan's shorts, they just keep going and they keep getting these comments and they're priceless because It's these people that are talking about morals being gold or being sarcastic about who we are, when in reality, they're the ones that are morally defunct.
It's like y'all motherfuckers voted for a pedophile and you still fucking protect him, man. Like, what do you want me to say to you at that point? Like, honestly. You know, and this isn't an opinion. It's not like, oh, this is just what I think, man. No, it's documented. With millions of fucking pages, bro. You know, yeah, we're the ones that lack in fucking morality. Dude,
Yeah, you know, they
fucking
Not only
cheerleaders.
that, well, as a Star Wars fan here, probably the biggest one here, has tattoos. The people that are the MAGA people
So do
that
I.
swear they're MAGA, they don't realize that they are part of the Empire. They
100%.
support the Empire, not rebels, not
100%.
smugglers.
You think Han
Their
Solo would have been
empire.
you think Han Solo would have been some fucking bootlicker?
Yeah.
And you're damn right he didn't make the Kessel
Yeah.
Run. And if he did, he didn't do it in what was it, 10 parsecs or whatever. I'll fucking tell you that right now.
You probably didn't afford fix or repair daily.
Achievement
Well,
unlocked.
first
We
of
just made a Kessel Run joke on a
There's 12,
podcast. So,
Yes.
you know,
Like,
these guys,
you're-
these
Bingo
guys,
card. We need a bingo card.
when they're evaluating your ethics, understand this. When they're evaluating your ethics, understand this. You know what annoys them about you, what annoys them the most, and the reason they're doing that is because they think you're full of shit. Because when they try to use ethics as an argument, they're full of shit. They're looking at courage, they're looking at actual character, and they're like, "Fuck you, you're lying." And it tells you everything you need to know about them and their character.
Fucking ridiculous.
All right. Well, that's all I got on the hate mail.
We should call it
All
counter
right.
hate now because we hate on these motherfuckers.
Yeah, we do.
Next time, Carl, I'll get with you beforehand. Sorry. But next time I'll get with you beforehand and we can go through some of the 5051 main email boxes because there's some fucking gold in there.
Yeah.
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 Like lizard people type shit. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love that, right? Like that would be a lot of fun. So the next thing we do is we do something called call to action. I am going to speak about ours, and then I'm going to have Logan speak on the next national date that has been announced from 5051. So from 5051 Veterans, our call to action specifically surrounds Veterans Against Fascism. So Veterans Against Fascism is a container for veterans across the country that want to join together and fight against fascism. It's not owned by an organization. Yeah, there are organizations such as the ones that you saw in DC that are involved in the Veterans Against Fascism container. So there is a monthly meeting. The first meeting, the monthly meeting is the first Sunday of every month. Look out on our Instagram. You will see the sign up links. Sign up, be a part of. The next action for Vets Against Fascism is around Memorial Day. Now, I am going to make it very clear. I understand fully that there is a myriad of feelings around protesting actions on Memorial Day. I myself, on Memorial Day, do the same thing every year, and I have since I got off of active duty. I go to our wall here in Jacksonville. I have personal friends on the wall and lay a wreath and then spend time at the National Cemetery. So we are not saying go protest at Memorial Day actions. That's not what we're asking. What we are saying is maybe on the Saturday before, you go to an event and table and get veterans in your area to start coalescing and talking, right? And that is going to look differently in every city and every veteran and their personal choices on whether an action happens on Memorial Day or it does not. And we support that either way. Like if you want to do an action, great. There is a toolkit that is coming out from Vets Against Fascism that we will pass to you. If you do not want to do one, also good. We support your decision. Everybody's Memorial Day is very personal. It is very somber. And I know I have a very rough Memorial Day, and a lot of veterans do. So we want to protect that right. And you do you. We will support you in any way we can. So those are our two calls to action besides joining our group, right? Is like we are a group of nonpartisan veterans from across the country that are talking amongst ourselves on shit like this. We have pillars and stuff that we do, demands, things of that nature. So get tied in. I will turn it over to Logan, and then I know Hannah probably has a call to action from Common Defense that she will put out. So Logan, what is National 5051 doing?
All right. So we actually got two things, one national, one more local as an ask to that's tied in. So first things first, next big day of action, we have June the 27th. That's the All of Us, Truth, Equality, and Freedom National Mobilization. So what is this? This is a week before America's 250, right? The whole purpose of the All of Us Coalition, which is a BIPOC-led coalition, is to reclaim this narrative from the Trump administration and to really fight back against this whitewashing of American history that we're seeing, right? So this is in particularly important right now when we're looking at the recent ruling on the Voting Rights Act, right? Trump in that regime trying to take away birthright citizenship. These are all the erasure of enslavement and genocide as well, and topical to the veterans, just basically wholesale erasing minority and women veterans from historical monuments, right? This is what we're fighting against, right, for that day of action. I really encourage you guys to check it out. You can find all the information both on our website, also on all of our social medias. Hit us up at 5051 Movement on Instagram. That's the best way to know what's going on. The other one in tandem with that, because my God, these people are on the front line, similar to you guys in Florida. We got the Pack the Capitol event coming on in Louisiana at the Louisiana State Capitol, 9 a.m. May 8th. The reason that I'm calling that out is if we look at what happened with the Voting Rights Act and the ruling that came from the Supreme Court, that was all due to legal action that happened in Louisiana. They are on the front lines. Same thing with my, brothers and sisters south of the Mason-Dixon line down in Florida, right? They need all the support they can get. If you're in the NOLA area, you want to come say what up, please, come down there. It'll be a good time, good people. Promise you won't go away hungry. It'll be a vibe for sure. Check it out. And other than that, I think that's all I got right now. Thank you.
And then Common Defense just launched our 2026 policy agenda over on our website, which includes the VA Not for Sale campaign, which does tie back into the 5051 veterans, one of our pillars for our demands 1 through 4.
So check them out. Common Defense is doing really good work, especially there in North Carolina, where Hannah is at, and Lindsay Knapp, and that entire team, and Heidi. Heidi has an action. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's in Colorado and another state. So look up those actions too by Heidi from Common Defense. Tom, do you have anything from Fight Against Fascism or March for Democracy you would like to put out?
No, we're gonna be, jumping on everybody else's ships for now. I just wanted to put out something about Memorial Day. A lot of people don't understand the significance behind Memorial Day. Memorial Day was actually developed by Black veterans who were never memorialized during the Civil War. So, a lot of people don't understand that. Even with most things that happen in this country, Black people have created things and it's forgotten. And, right now with all this DEI stuff and, people look at veterans and patriots as if you have to be a white heterosexual male. And then we scream, about Memorial Day and memorializing our veterans when literally you would never have that day without the ones who were forgotten in that time. So just wanted to put that out there.
No, I think that history is actually not spoken on enough, right? Is the history of Memorial Day and the meaning behind it. And I know I always do a pretty long write up on my personal Facebook page about Memorial Day and the history and the feelings behind it. But Carl, what is Crayon Box Politics doing? I know you just had an interesting show. What do you got coming up?
Yeah, so I did an interview last week with an individual who is in the process of starting a movement called the Main Street Party, um, and it's a really interesting concept. Basically, what he thinks is, take the idea of how we vote for America's Idol or Next Top Model or whatever have you. It's all done via phones. Like we have this ability to do that, and he takes that idea and he's in the process of developing an application that is going to be used to try to demonstrate how it can be done for primaries. Essentially, it's a moneyless application, and the way that it works is they take all the candidates who sign up for this process. And because it's not a party, the way that they're doing it is through Super PAC, which is an interesting tack. But there's local community-driven panels that put these people and interview these people and talk to them and get them onto the application, and then the voters will go in and they will, they'll identify how they align, and then the app will show them the candidates that align with them the most, and they can read their profile and they can hear a little bit about them, and then what they do is they'll make a vote, and then it goes on and on from there until they finally get to the number one person. So it's almost like a blend of ranked choice voting as well as jungle voting, but it's also utilizing the electronic systems. That episode will come out on Monday, but as far as Memorial Day, I will probably be laying low on that day because, like you, Katie, it's one of those significant days for me. So.
Yeah, we respect everybody on that, right? Everybody has very different feelings on Memorial Day. Brian, do you have anything from Mass 5051 that needs to be put out before we go into safety brief?
Yeah, just a small thing, but still cool. So they do something in this area called Porch Fest, and it happens basically May to like June. And so what we're doing and what they do is like all these bands and stuff will just come out and play on people's porches, and so it's just like a block party that stretches across like 4 blocks, and you walk around and check out all the bands. And it's everything, like every type of music you could possibly imagine. Like you'll find a metal band, you'll find a reggae band, like whatever you're into. And so we're going to be doing that. We're actually going to be doing civic engagement and education. So we are starting up civic engagement as kind of like one of our planks of kind of operational success. We figure engagement is actually a trick. We've had some good success with that. And so we're going to lean into that because it's become a bit of a core strength for our organization. And you could find me, and I would not object if you bought me a beer.
We're here for that. And so, all right, our last section for everybody watching is going to find it weird unless you're a veteran or you've seen one of our shows. Logan's already laughing. So we do something, we close out with a safety brief. Safety brief is something very endemic to the military. So on Fridays at close of business, your leadership gives you a briefing on how to not be a degenerate over the weekend. And so there is Pete, the penguin. All right, so we always start out the same way, right? Do not beat your spouse, your child, or your pet. Eat an actual meal. Gas station snacks, nicotine, and caffeine are not nutrition. Drink water like you mean it. Half of your bad mood is dehydration. Get some sleep. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. except Waffle House and regret. If you've been running hard for weeks, rest is not weakness, it's maintenance. Take all of your meds, all of them, and make all of your appointments. Check on your friends, especially the ones that say I'm fine way too fast. If your mind's getting dark, talk to somebody. You can reach out to our page. You can reach out to a myriad of veteran pages. I'm sure every single one of our social media people would love to talk to you and make sure you're good. Isolation is where problems multiply, so call somebody and show up somewhere, right? If you're struggling, ask for help. It's not weakness, it's grown ass behavior. Nobody fights alone. Schedule your appointments you've been avoiding and do self checks, right? Breast cancer doesn't care how busy you are. Our vice president is currently going through breast cancer, so please do self checks. If something feels wrong, get it looked at. Walking it off has ruined enough people already in our community. Stretch, you're not 22 anymore, no matter what you think. Sunscreen is cheaper than dermatology. Although if you're 100%, dermatology is free, but that's not the point. Put your dog on a leash. Your friendly dog is probably not friendly to other dogs, and we have someone on the call whose dog was, or pet was killed by a dog. So yeah, scooters are not transportation. They're not cavalry mounts. When veterans get together, probably don't take scooters. Always participate in barter systems involving coffee grounds, marijuana plants, and watermelon plants. If you find the plant later on the sidewalk and immediately claim it, that's raccoon logic. And we support this behavior 100%. Emotional support potatoes are authorized and should be carried with dignity and pride. I know Logan's like, what the fuck is happening? Make good decisions. If unable, make survivable ones. If neither is possible, make legendary decisions and send us the videos with plausible deniability attached. Check on your people, right? And most importantly, protect the most vulnerable around you. As veterans, we took an oath to the Constitution, but we also took an oath to the people of this country, right? And a lot of civilians around us watching this are probably scared. And as veterans, we have a duty to those people around us to protect them, because we, as veterans on this call, are also unsure of where this is all going to end up. But we are trained and we are, able to protect people, and we took an oath to do that. So make sure that you're maintaining your oath. Otherwise, I don't have anything on the safety brief. If anybody has anything to add? No? All right. Well, we do this every Wednesday and Saturday night. We hope to see you back. It's at 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern here on the Smoke Pit, panel of veterans talking about real issues. We hope you have a good night.